Well, the Georgia Bulldogs are at the top of Mark Schlabach's way too early. What does he call this? Way too early college football top 25 rankings. He's got the Dogs set after narrowly missing out on the college football playoff for the third season in a row. The Bulldogs reloaded with another number one ranked recruiting class and blasted Florida State 63-3 in the Capital One Orange Bowl. So he's got the Dogs at 1, Texas at 2. Then Oregon, and then Bama and Ohio State. Michigan at 6. The Rebels at 7. Mizzou at 8. Arizona at 9, and Notre Dame at 10. Missouri and Ole Miss. That's anyway. Your reaction to where Mark's got the Dogs at 1?
I mean, obviously, we're gonna, if you were to look back at this when we get into the season, it'll probably be very wrong, but it's based on quarterbacks, right? At least the top of it is. That's why Georgia is ranked 1, and that's why Texas is ranked 2 in his rankings. They've got probably the two best returning quarterbacks in college football in Carson Beck and Quinn Ewers. And obviously, the rest of it doesn't matter as much. I mean, Quinn Ewers is losing his top 3 weapons. Carson Beck is losing his top 3 weapons.
3, yeah.
If you want to consider Kendall Milton one of them.
Well, no, I mean Bowers, McConkey, Marcus.
And they were statistically. I think Lovett was in there too, but
okay, yeah.
It's predicated on the quarterbacks a lot, right? That's why you see Georgia ranked ahead of Alabama, Texas ranked ahead of Alabama, because Alabama's returning, a similar haul, right? I don't think they're just getting gutted out. And I don't think Texas are.
They're losing some defenders for sure. You lose Dallas Turner, McKinstry, Arnold. They're lling some guys for sure. On offense, they're losing Jermaine, and that's about it. Jermaine's a third round at best wide receiver. So you're going to look at Veron Haynes' kid is going to be really good for them at running back. Alabama's got a few questions, I guess you could say, but they're really good all the time, and I don't think that's going to change.
No, it's not. I don't have this pulled up. I'll get it pulled up. But
Ohio State is the in the top 4. Ohio State is the team where I think you're wondering what's going to happen at quarterback, to some degree, and I might be behind.
No, they've got that from Kansas State. I think it'll end up being Will Howard, right?
Yeah, from Kansas State. But at the end of the day, you can put them in the same category. So Georgia and Texas and Bama, they all have returning starting quarterbacks. The same thing with Ole Miss and Mizzou. So of the top 8, and I'm not as familiar with Arizona, you'll have to forgive me, but I know they're really good on defense. So Arizona, I don't know their situation at quarterback. Notre Dame is losing their quarterback. UW is losing theirs. Penn State, they're returning it. Penn State is never going to do anything, not as they're currently constructed. So forget it. Utah's at 13. LSU obviously replacing their quarterback. Utah is going to return theirs after like a 3-year sabbatical. That guy comes back.
It's going to be him. Rising. It's going to be Cameron Rising.
I believe he comes back. Does he not?
From the grave.
Yeah. He's like the damn Undertaker. So LSU and then OU. I don't know what OU's doing. Florida State loses their quarterback. Tennessee loses their quarterback. Oklahoma State, I believe they return theirs, but I'm not sure. They return the running back for sure. Clemson, I think they'd like to change their quarterback sometimes, but he comes back, Cade Klubnik. And then do we really have to go to, so at the top, I do think the quarterbacks matter. I think generally speaking, Georgia is positioned to be the best team. I think the running backs, that could be steadier through the season. I think the way Kendall and Edwards played at the end of the year, I don't know if you're going to get that. But through the season, it should be better with ETN and just the return of Robinson. I think I was recording some games over onto the hard drive the other day, and I watched Branson run. I forgot what he can do. He's pretty good, and he'll be like their 2 or 3.
Yeah, he is healthy, right? I think that his injury's worse than we realized, based off my conversation with him. But I think, and then my doctor research, right? Dr. Curley over here. So if he's healthy, I would think that he's the 2 behind Trevor Etienne. You got to kind of assume here that Trevor Etienne's going to be your lead back. an established running back in this conference, someone that
But if
obviously
Etienne,
has
if
had successful
Etienne can
account.
approach what his brother did for Clemson, I mean, his brother was a
Approach
dog at
being
Clemson.
one of the best running backs in ACC history, college football history.
He was up there. He's not as good as Cook was at Florida State, but he was
He
something
was
like
right
that,
under that.
huh?
He wasn't that far below.
No, he wasn't, and he was playing
Yeah,
with an exceptional quarterback too.
if little Etienne can do that for Georgia, then I mean
Approach that
they haven't
like,
had a back like that since DeAndre Swift.
well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, since James Cook was pretty good. That kind
Well,
of
but just not the way he was utilized. He
well,
was that.
listen, I watch James Cook now, man, playing for the Bills. I wouldn't want any part of dealing with James Cook. I mean, like, I wouldn't want any part of dealing with James Cook. That guy, he didn't ever heard anything bad from James Cook. You know, I do think he had a traffic violation that I think about it was kind of stupid. So that would be one thing. But other than that, I'm taking that as like a teammate. You never heard guys say anything bad about James. James Cook, if they could recreate him somehow, my God, I mean, that was a great running back duo. And Milton at the end of the season was really good, but you didn't get that the whole season. That was the problem. And I think that the running back and and what Michigan did this season is not distant from what we've seen from Georgia, except Georgia's got a passing game. Michigan does not. And I think that that's when you're looking at who's the one here. You know, I think if you have someone over Georgia, I think Alabama might be a little low. To be honest with you, is that
At
stupid? I
four,
mean, like, don't you think Alabama would beat Oregon?
I don't know, man. Because just in hindsight, really reviewing this year, I don't even think Alabama was one of the four best teams. Maybe I mean it was borderline.
Was Oregon better than Washington?
No. I mean you can't lose twice.
Yeah.
They beat you head to head twice.
Well, I'll tell you this. Oregon was a more consistent team than Washington
Yes,
was for
yes.
sure. And you know, I
They
don't
had their
know.
chance though. We were wherever we were in near Tucker, wherever it was, watching that game. They had their chance to beat Washington the second time around, and they just didn't. I mean, I
They had
just
a chance the
when it
first
happens the
time.
second time, it's kind of hard for me to say you were better.
Well, right. Well, they were certainly more consistent than UW. I think
Yes, yeah.
on the long term, I mean, Dan, the only real criticism of Dan is he's got to start winning that particular game. I mean, that cost him a conference championship essentially 2 years in a row. I think the first, I mean, it's hard to argue with going 21-5 in 2 years. I mean, that's really exceptional. I think the way that Oregon plays really matches up well in the Big Ten. I would not be shocked if Oregon won the Big Ten. I mean, Mark is almost predicting it here, but you know, I think Ohio State's got some work to do, man. And
The people
what?
shouldn't sleep on Missouri either. I mean,
Dude, are
th-
we really like? I mean, you said don't sleep on them
I'm not saying that they're gonna make it to the SEC championship or anything, but this is a legitimate playoff
for
contender.
sure. Yeah, if that
I mean,
quarterback, if Brady Cook and Burton, if Brady Cook continues to play well, they are a lot of trouble. But
yeah, losing
you
that
know,
running back's gonna make a difference for sure. But
losing him hurts. But they didn't have him last year against Georgia, and they really played pretty well. But uh, I don't know. I want to see Mizzou do it twice. I mean, I think if they win 10 games 2 years in a row, then you're talking about, well, wait a second, what just happened over there? And it's Eli Drinkwitz. If that's the case, what about the Rebels for you? And see, I think what you said earlier today, or maybe what Matt said was, it might have been Matt. They're kind of getting like it might be that they're already overrated. I don't know if they're overrated at 7 though.
no, this is
You,
I think the offseason talk can definitely bump them up a couple spots in people's preseason rankings. They'll probably be like the Texas A&M of this thing, but they've done more than A&M ever did to earn those rankings. Losing Judkins will matter. I mean, he was likely going to be the best running back in college football this coming year,
yeah,
and that's that's. I mean, running back position is not as important as it used to be, but losing a guy like that matters. Um,
yeah, he's
I
the
think they're
real
going to be
deal.
good, man. I mean, you can't. I don't know how much you can overrate, but Jackson Dart at this point now, I don't like Jackson Dart that much as a quarterback. He's just not for me. But he's pretty good, and he's been around for a while now, with a coach for a while now. So you expect him to be one of the better guys in the country. You expect that offense to be able to score. They added pieces on defense. Like if Ole Miss does do well, they win 11 games, they win a playoff game or whatever, we shouldn't be shocked. We shouldn't be shocked. But
No,
you also
but
shouldn't be shocked with the opposite
well,
reaction.
you,
That's
you
the
shouldn't
thing.
be shocked if they go 8-4 either. I mean, their end of schedule is brutal. That's when they play LSU. That's when they play
Everyone's is
Georgia.
brutal, man. This
Huh?
is the new college football world. Everyone's got a brutal schedule. I mean,
That is true.
Florida's got it the worst. Part of why they got it the worst is because they're not that good. But I mean, everyone's going to have to go through at least two really good teams at some point during the regular season. And
Yeah, and I think the addition of I want to look at Michigan's schedule just real quick because there will be a lot made of the returning national champions, which they finally are. I mean, it's been Georgia for so long.
there's going to be so much made of whether or not J.G. McCarthy comes back.
He
I'll
does
tell you
not
right now,
matter.
it's not
But
going to change
listen,
their offense.
here are the games that they've got. I mean, the names jump off. They got Texas, USC, Washington on the road, and then and then Oregon at home, and then they also play Ohio State. Dude, they can lose to Texas. I don't know about USC, but let's just say they could lose. They could definitely lose to Washington out there. They could lose to Oregon. Probably will lose to Oregon, and they could certainly lose to Ohio State. This thing could
Yeah,
this could look like LSU 19, and it's not the same thing. It's not, but it could
I
look
was
like
going to
that.
say that. I was going
Uh,
to say it could be like the 19 to 20 drop off for LSU. I think you could see something similar. They're just losing too many key pieces. I mean,
like
it's just going to be an issue.
like you look at
It's
it.
going to be.
And Michigan doesn't play with Penn State, which I don't. That just means they lost. They lost a certain win goes off their schedule, but they don't play. Ohio State doesn't play like a legit team that they can lose to until they play at Oregon in mid-October. That will be challenging. They go to Penn State. They're
Yeah, I'll
right on.
predict right now they're going to lose that game. I'll call that now. I think Oregon will probably beat them out
Oh,
there.
Oregon. I thought you were saying Penn State. I would pick Oregon. I would pick Oregon in that game, but that's based off of this year. I mean, but dude, they're only playing. I mean, just for me, they're playing Oregon, Penn State, and Michigan. That's it. That's not brutal at all. Let me give you the Ducks real quick. Playing Oregon State, which I'm glad to see. So they got Idaho, Boise, Oregon State. Excuse me. Then they play at UCLA. They play Michigan State at home, Ohio State at home. Then they go to Purdue. They host Illinois. They go to Michigan. There's the game. And we don't know if Michigan's going to be any good. They host Maryland. Then they go to Wisconsin, week off, and then they play UW. That is totally, they can win all those games. They can win
No, I
all
think
those games for sure.
if I were
For
to pick it
sure.
right now, I think Oregon will win the Big Ten.
I would pick that, but they gotta win. They gotta win big games too. And that's as great as Dan's been, there's always something, right? There's always something that's next, and that's where we're at with all these teams, not just the Dogs, but they're ranked number one going into 2024 by ESPN's Mark Schlabach. Thanks for watching.